the attorney defending Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene against a lawsuit seeking to disqualify her from appearing on the 2022 midterm ballot for supporting the 6th of January insurrection, attempted to block her from answering a question about whether she discussed the invocation of martial law with former President Donald Trump by invoking executive privilege. Ms. Greene, a first-term Republican, was undergoing questioning by Andrew Sell, an attorney representing a group of Georgia voters who say she should be prohibited from serving in Congress by a clause in the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution which says anyone who has engaged in insurrection after swearing an oath to defend the Constitution cannot be a senator or representative. When she was asked if she ever discussed her advocacy for the idea that there should be martial law declared in the United States during meetings with Mr. Trump, the Georgia Congresswoman is known to have had at least one meeting with Mr. Trump in the days between his loss to Joe Biden and January 6, 2021, when a mob of the disgraced ex-president's supporters stormed the Capitol in hopes of blocking Congress from certifying Mr. Biden's victory. In a video taken in late December 2020, Ms. Greene claimed to have had a great planning session at the White House in preparation for the 6th of January joint session of Congress. At the time, multiple advisors to Mr. Trump, including disgraced ex-National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, Kraken attorney Sidney Powell, and MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, were known to have suggested to Mr. Trump that he invoke martial law to order seizure of swing state election equipment and ballots. But Ms. Greene replied that she did not recall discussing anything along those lines with Mr. Trump. Mr. Shelley asked her if she was saying no such discussion happened or if she didn't remember, at which she replied again, "I don't recall ever discussing that." After he asked her if she ever discussed the idea that there should be martial law declared in the United States prior to the inauguration of President Biden, attorney James Bopp Jr. interjected. "Your Honor, I'm going to have to object to this," he said, adding that he also represents Mr. Trump and the answer to Mr. Fine's question would be covered by executive privilege, a doctrine which protects conversations between and among a president and his advisors. Mr. Shelley replied that Mr. Bopp could not claim executive privilege because he is not part of the executive branch, and moreover, he was in court representing Ms. Greene, not Mr. Trump. Marjorie Taylor Greene slammed Jim Acosta as a liar after the CNN reporter pressed the Congresswoman about a text message the outlet obtained that revealed she'd sent former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows a message that Donald Trump enact martial law in the waning days of his presidency and immediately after the 6th of January insurrection. The text messages, part of a trove obtained by the network, provide insight into how some of Trump's staunchest allies continued to strategize to keep the former U.S. president in the Oval Office, just a little more than a week after a violent mob descended on the Capitol in the 6th of January insurrection. In the uncovered text exchange, the Georgia Republican writes to the former White House Chief of Staff on 17th of January that she and some members had been discussing what they could do in the aftermath of the Capitol riot for the president, who had just 3 days left in office before Joe Biden would assume the presidency. In our private chat with only members, several are saying the only way to save our republic is for Trump to call for martial law. Sick, she said, misspelling martial law, an alternative plan that others within the Trump administration had floated, including former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. "I don't know on those things. I just wanted you to tell him. They stole this election. We all know. They will destroy our country next. Please tell, sick, him to declassify as much as possible so we can go after Biden and anyone else." Mr. Acosta, who saddled up next to the Congresswoman in Washington on Thursday while walking along the street, took the opportunity to press her about the text messages, which she has repeatedly claimed to not recall sending. "You don't seem to recall a lot," he begins in the video clip, which leads Ms. Greene to issue her first insult against the CNN anchor. "You know, Jim, you have a show and in all fairness you try to present this image of me to your viewers and it's really just not correct." Mr. Acosta, staying on topic, again asks her, "Did you send that text asking for the president to declare martial law? Did you do that?" A back and forth between the pair ensues, with both trying to speak over the other, until they finally agree to pull up the text message exchange in question on Mr. Acosta's phone. After reading the messages aloud, Ms. Greene jumps on the attack and says to the political reporter, "Jim, your problem is you're lying again right now," she says, emphasizing the part in her text messages that she wrote "I do not know" on those things. "I'm not lying," the CNN host interjects, before the far-right congresswoman dials into another diatribe against the reporter. "Why won't you be honest? You know what your problem is. You're just one of those liars on television and people hate it, they can't stand liars on television." Ms. Greene, who last Friday became the first member of Congress to publicly testify about the moments leading up to and after the Capitol riot, was specifically pressed about whether she had discussed martial law with the former president or anyone else within the administration as a possible pathway to keep Trump in the White House, a question that she repeatedly responded with, "I don't recall."